This is Gary Atencio with CNTV, and today we're in Denver, Colorado. I'm here with Peak Recruiter. Since 2018, they have been partnering with health systems and medical groups to fill critical positions quickly with top performers from across the nation. I'm joined with the managing partner. Mike, thanks so much for joining us here.
Thank you.
Let's start off a little bit about yourself, and let's go back. We're talking about over a decade of experience you have in specializing in the healthcare leadership recruitment. Basically, before you came in this industry, you continued your education at the University of Colorado. Prior to launching your own company, you worked a decade in the industry. You're now an award-winning professional in the industry. Share with me a little bit how this passion got started for you.
Well, interestingly enough, I was placed by a recruiter or a headhunter back in 2004, and I thought that was such an interesting experience. And I worked at that company for 4 years, was recruited to their competitor, and during that time, the firm that placed me called and said, "Hey, we thought you'd be good at recruiting. What do you think?" And I said, "Hey, I'll talk to you about it." And I went in, talked to the owner of that company, fell in love, and the rest is history, as they say. I've been recruiting ever since.
That is exciting. You've experienced it firsthand. I mean, honestly, regardless of what type of company that you help out there, obviously specialty is healthcare, but regardless of the type of company, be it a service or a product, really the lifeblood of any company anymore is still people. Is that true?
It is true. You know, employees, we talk about, they're the foundation of everything we do, right? They're going to be really working to help us achieve all the goals and objectives that we have as an organization. And my clients, hospitals and medical groups in particular, they are in a very competitive environment. You know, there's a shortage of candidates, both at leadership and nursing in particular, and it's an opportunity for me to help fill that void and help them attract the folks that will help them move forward.
You have firsthand experience building winning teams. I would imagine you're pretty well aware of the challenges many managers are having out there. Why do you think the services you provide today are maybe even more beneficial than they were a dozen years ago when you had them?
Well, I think the most beneficial is that I'm able to cut through the noise. You know, right now our environment is so loud with cell phones and the TV and just ads constantly bombarding us. So even though posting a position may get you the candidate you are looking for, Gary, I'd also like to mention that here at Peak Recruiter, we really focus in two areas. One is permanent search. Some people call that direct hire, and that can be retained or contingent with our firm. The other piece is interim leadership. So for those companies who, let's say they need a permanent director of surgical services, for example, many times that search could take 3 to 4 months by the time you start the search, go through the interview process, and they're able to start. So we also provide interim leadership. And if you are an organization that needs someone within 3 to 5 days to hold down day-to-day management, to complete a turnaround, important project, those interims are available. We work with over 700 here at Peak Recruiter. And these are all folks who are masters or dual masters prepared, have over 20 years of experience, and can really make a big difference for an organization quickly. Most of the top performing candidates aren't on job boards. They're not looking for a new role. They're happy, they're focused, they're engaged with their organization. So you really need an ambassador essentially to understand your story, what's attractive about your organization, and go find these people with the right skill sets and experiences and really talk to them about their career and what's interesting about that company in hopes of getting them to look at it and say, hey, maybe I should take a look at this client of yours and think about joining their team.
That is interesting. Definitely one of the challenges managers have out there, companies have out there, is hiring the right person for the right job. I mean, that fit, if you're able to accomplish that, does that impact not only the work environment, but actually probably affects the bottom line?
It affects both, right? You know, the company culture comes from the leadership down. And here at Peak Recruiter, we focus on leadership. So manager, director, vice president, and C-suite are the types of people that we place. And they really do set the tone and the culture for the organization.
One of the things I see out there, the existing workforce, I mean, we could say it seems unpredictable right now.
Sure.
Is it a mistake for these managers to rush through that hiring process, filling the position as quickly as they can? And what are some of the consequences of rushing that, maybe posing bigger problems in the future?
One of the main problems is the cost of a bad hire usually is about 2.5 to 5 times the person's salary. So it's very costly from a financial perspective, but it's also very disruptive, right? If you have someone come in who doesn't really embody the values of your culture and organization, it can, not only will they be short-lived, they may disrupt the entire team. And that can take months or even, a year or two to really recover from.
Like you said before, the root of any great business out there is surely a solid foundation of people. Why, as a professional recruiter, do you think able to come in and maybe see who is a good fit, sometimes more than the people that are in the organization?
One advantage I have is I'm not politically tied or ingrained in the organization. I'm a third set of eyes, right? So it's much easier to be a consultant, view the situation, and give them advice as far as, hey, this is what the market's like in general. These are what your competitors are doing. And for you to be competitive, here's some things that we need to talk about. Structure of the role, size, scope, pay. There's a lot of little, nuance areas that we could dig into, but ultimately we live and breathe this recruitment and are talking to this leadership from around the nation every day. So I understand what's on their mind, what kind of challenges they have, dissatisfiers they have. And so it's easier in my spot to get the truth from candidates and the clients to get a transparent view that we can really shape into a story. And recruiting, I believe, is really all about storytelling, right? It's the story of the client, of the opportunity, and seeing how this person could fit into that, how that could affect their future personally, and then getting them excited about that, assuming that, of course, they're qualified and educated, correctly for the role.
Interesting. Let's get into some of these tangible strategies. Let's discuss the peak process. The process is client-centric. You become part of the team. You become part of the organization. Really, if they win, you win.
That's right.
Touch on that, why that's so important.
It's so important that we all win together so that we're aligned in what we're trying to accomplish. In our industry, like any, there's the good and the bad. And with that, recruitment always doesn't have the best connotation. So I really work hard to align our interests with the interests of that of my clients. For example, we offer a 5-year post-placement program here at Peak Recruiter, which is very unique in the industry. Most are about a year, up to a year. And what I'm looking for is to do more work with less clients so that I'm further ingrained in their leadership team. So not only do I place perhaps the CEO, but then the subsequent leadership. The more you work with one client, the better you're going to get a feel for their culture, really understand who they are, what they're trying to accomplish, the types of people who would fit in well. And so essentially you can just do better quality work over time if you're doing more work with the same client, if that makes sense.
That is interesting. Next, let's discuss what you call excellence in execution. These are not just recruitment professional employees you send out there, but these are top professionals with hundreds of hours of skill, training. Does the continuing education of your team something that you require?
It is. Weekly, we go 1 to 3 hours of continuing education. And it's really all about sharpening our skills, because what we do, like anything, is an art form, from how you attract, identify, attract, qualify, and ultimately deliver a candidate. There are lots of little nuances and pieces of that puzzle, right? So we talk a lot about how we approach, how we script, how we run the process and run the deals, so that everybody is happy with the outcome.
At the end of the day, it's about results for you, achievement of results. You have a pretty high success rate. Is that something you pride yourself on what you're able to deliver?
Absolutely. Success rate is everything. They have our clients have high expectations, and we plan to deliver quickly. And it's not just about speed; it's about quality. And so that's what the process really helps to ensure. It has a number of checks throughout the process, so that by the time we get to final interview, we've narrowed down to a slate of folks who are not only aligned with the culture, vision, and values of the organization, but who are deliverable, meaning that if offered, they would accept the role. And that's very important as to not to waste any candidates or clients' time, with interviews that aren't going to pan out.
Lastly, you stand behind your work. Really almost professional karma, if you will, has enabled you to grow.
Yes.
Getting referrals from past clients. Is that something that you've experienced throughout the years and something that you really believe is a cornerstone for what you do?
It is a cornerstone of what we do. Like many businesses, word of mouth is everything for us.
Yeah.
And so, once I engage with a client company for the first time, it's a long game. It's not about just filling that one position. I want to make a partnership and
Sure.
become part of their team. That's why we back things up for 5 years. They can call me 3.5 years later. We'll come back in and help them again. And by building these strong relationships, we have really created just this wonderful reputation in the market. And so people call us now to a certain extent. And it feels great when someone calls, hey, I was referred to you, and that just makes my day, because it knows that's how I know I'm doing good work for other people.
You mentioned earlier honing your skills of your team. One of the skills your team has to have and master is that of just listening. Going into an organization, initially getting to really know your client, the organization. Do you enjoy that process, really becoming part of the team?
I do. In fact, people's stories and the story of their life and their career, I just find fascinating.
Yeah.
I love to learn about folks. So when I meet them and they're open to sharing about who they are with me personally, what drives them, where they're at in life and career, I just get a real satisfaction from not only getting to know them, but when I'm able to help them. It really is rewarding when they're so excited about a new role or career growth. And of course, on the flip side, when the clients are just ecstatic about someone joining their team. Those are the days that I live for.
Once you've done this assessment, now you're able to really do what you do best, which is develop a recruitment strategy. As you identify the candidate pool, create that messaging. This is where probably your experience really sets you apart.
It sure does. Working only within healthcare for hospitals and medical groups, the candidate pool that we're tapping into is always the same. So over the years, I've been able to develop this really powerful set of relationships and network within that space. So the identification of people with the right skills and education is fairly easy at this point. The real art of it is the messaging. Well, how are we going to gain interest, build interest, get someone's attention in such a noisy world, right? And that's where I think the experience really comes in as far as delivering the right message to the right people to get the correct outcome.
That is interesting. During the candidate sourcing, this is kind of where the rubber hits the road, or basically your experience hits the phone.
Yeah.
The difference between an amateur and a professional is that you're probably not afraid of resistance. You realize you're going to get some resistance, and you're able to break through that. Is that something that you pride yourself on, and make sure you have your team always pushing forward and realizing that it's not every connection is going to be simple?
No, very often they're not simple. And so you really do have to plan for that resistance and understand how you're going to work around that. We never plan to work through resistance or work through somebody or overcome them. People don't want to be overcome, right? But what we do want is have skills to break down some of their barriers, especially with cold calls, right? We do a lot of cold calling into folks who may or may not know us. And so it's about having that introduction and just a short snippet that is attractive enough to gain their attention, and then to work with them and respect their time, though, so that they will open up with you and talk with you right then, or perhaps maybe later in the day or the next day when it's a little more appropriate, or they're at home, instead of at their office. And there really is a lot of skills that you have to develop. And so role playing is a big part of our business, right?
I bet.
And so it's something that we do every week, and we just pick different scenarios and say, okay, how would you handle this? And how would you respond? And
impressive.
It gives a chance for people to say things that maybe wouldn't work so well. Kind of get that out. But you really do play the way you practice. And so we practice quite a bit.
That is exciting. This is a turnkey service. From the beginning to the end, you're contacting the candidates, you're pitching the message, setting up the interviews, negotiations if necessary, all the way to the onboarding. Onboarding that perfect fit. Not only do you become a part of this team, but you're really a valuable part of their team. Are a lot of these organizations kind of surprised at how deep you're able to get into their organization?
Yeah, they're consistently surprised with how well the candidates are prepped before final interviews, for example, how well they are prepped, right? We prep the clients with, what the candidate motivations are, what the competitive outlook is on that candidate, right, for other roles that they're looking at. And it's really meant to help both parties go into it ready to be transparent, get the information they need to make a decision, and then once we find those two folks that are, hey, we really want to be with each other, I want that job, and hey, we want to hire them, it's negotiating the offer. And that's an invaluable piece that we do, because as a middleman, it is great. I can say things to the client that if a candidate said might really put them off, or vice versa. And so we can be that mediator, get both of them what they really want, which is to work together. So we can help smooth that out. And then, of course, the onboarding piece is all about making sure that the pre-employment items go smoothly, drug screen, background checks, et cetera. That their rental housing tours
Sure.
or rental houses are coming through, moving's on time, and that they have the directions and when and where to be the first day. Making sure that we check on them that first day, that first week, that first month, so that if there is a little hiccup with the team or with something that happened to them, well, let's just iron it out instead of letting it build and become this big problem, because that's the last thing you want with a new employee, right? And so many times those are misunderstandings, and their leadership is not typically aware of those. And so having someone like myself in the process can really be valuable, because we have the ear and the trust of the candidate, and so we understand what's going on and how they've been welcomed to the team, so we can help keep them aware of any possible challenges or issues as they come up.
Speaking of trust, you have mastered the ability to attract, qualify, hire, and retain candidates. It's placed you in the top 2% in the world. I mean, obviously, I imagine that's something you're proud of, but at the same time, are you humbled by those who trust your experience, and does this continue to be rewarding for you?
Every single day, I am humbled. What we do is not easy. It really is difficult. You have to come ready to play every day and be ready to hit that phone, 50, 100 calls. So it's consistently humbling. But I love that challenge. And for me, I was someone who got bored very easily. And so what I love about recruiting is that every role is a little bit different. Every leadership team is a little different. Every hospital, medical group, the town they're located in, they're all a little different. And so it gives us a chance to learn about those areas and a lot of variety. And that really does keep me charged. There's nothing better than to not only meet someone new who you can help, but then be successful in doing so. And, really learning all about Joplin, Missouri, for example, or, Pasco, Washington, or, wherever it might be that their organization is located.
That's very cool. Viewers, let's take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. What you're going to see is their website. First of all, on the website, take a look at the About page and learn a little bit more about this company. We're talking about an award-winning process that truly delivers a very high percentage out there. The success they're able to create the perfect fit for your company. If you're an organization out there and you understand that people are they're either going to limit your success or they're basically going to enhance it, definitely contact them as well. If you're a candidate and basically you're looking to be placed in an organization that really maybe matches the culture of where you should be, definitely contact them as well. Schedule a call. Once again, this is Peak Recruiter since 2018. I mean, obviously experience counts when attracting talent your company needs to ensure your success in the marketplace. This is Gary Atencio with CNTV. And if you don't know, now you know.